Hi guys, welcome to this analysis of the Crucible, most notably how it will work for you in 2020, and if I can give you some tips and some advice on some supplementary material that will really aid you in answering or teaching this course as a human experience piece. So, one of the things that I found really helpful was this supplementary text, this essay by feminist writer Emma Goldman and feminist activist Emma Goldman. It is brilliant. And the way it works as a piece to teach the human experience through the Crucible really worked for me last year. It worked for me so well, I hope it worked well in terms of my HSC results. Speaking to my kids after the exam, they said, "Sir, listen, that question, the 2019 question about love, we found it quite easy," which somewhat is different to many people's view on that question. And this was one of the reasons why. Because a lot of them looked at the concept of love and just broke it down as a theological construct. They saw it as something that's not within our true human experience, which is one of impulse and sort of, wavering emotion rather than deep-seated love. And that's their angle on it. So, look, whether you agree or disagree, that's up to you, but just have a look at this text. And this is how I taught the Crucible in 2019 and one of the ways of how I'll teach the Crucible in 2020. So I got this essay, which is called The Hypocrisy of Puritanism. Now, number one, of course, we know that the play is set within a Puritan society in Salem, in Boston, Massachusetts. So if you were to actually break down the concept of Puritanism, you would go a long way into answering and seeing some of Miller's motivations in using Puritanism as a backdrop for his piece. So I'm just going to show you now. There's a section of this speech which pertains to an art scholar. But I'm just going to read this to you, and you can see it there. It says, "Puritanism has made us self-centered and hypocritical for so long that sincerity and reverence for what is natural in our impulses have been fairly bred out of us, with the result that there can be neither truth nor individuality in our art, and of course that reflects onto life in many ways." But the key word there is impulses. And Goldman goes on to say that, not acting on our impulses would be considered a move away from what is a true part of the human experience. Now, if you look at Abigail's character, you will see that she lives her life on impulses, mainly sexual ones, but other ones as well. So living your life from this fixed and immovable way of Puritanism won't ever really work. And that's why it's a hypocrisy and maybe even a paradox, which is one of the key terms for this new Text in the Human Experience syllabus rationale. Mr. Borglum might have added that Puritanism has made life itself impossible. More than art, more than aestheticism, life represents beauty in 1,000 variations. If I can stop there for a minute, 1,000 variations, that means, yes, we are progressive. We are ever-changing. And in theory, if we were to follow Puritanism in the way it's supposed to be followed, we would never change. So in many ways, you can break down the whole Puritan concept and potentially, and this is where it gets interesting, the concept of marriage. Okay, now you can see the feminist angle towards it. But if you break down the concept of marriage, which many feminists don't agree with, well, then maybe Abigail's behavior has greater relevance. Okay, and you can think of even John Proctor's behavior. Okay, so I would look at that relationship when looking at this piece of work. It fits in beautifully. I also used this essay as a catalyst to other pieces of analysis. So progression through our lives through Abigail and John Proctor, and then as we go on, I'll show you a few more. Okay, I'll continue reading. It is indeed a gigantic panorama of eternal change. Puritanism, on the other hand, rests on a fixed, immovable conception of life. And again, marriage. You can't move within the marriage boundaries in many ways, obviously, especially in the year 1600. So there you go again. And that's where the concept of love is really highlighted as something that is almost, well, I might sound cynical, but a little bit unattainable to be committed to someone for such a long time. Okay, I'm not justifying Abigail's behavior, but what I'm saying is that her impulses were only natural. So moving on again. Now this is very, the language is forthright, but let's read it anyway. Puritanism celebrated its reign of terror in England during the 16th and 17th centuries, destroying and crushing every manifestation of art and culture. Many people probably like to discard that bit. It was the spirit of Puritanism which robbed Shelley of his children because he would not bow to the dicta of religion. It was the same narrow spirit which alienated Byron from his native land because the great genius rebelled against the monotony, dullness and pettiness of his country. It was Puritanism too that forced some of England's freest women into the conventional lie of marriage. Okay, now you can work on that concept, the lie of marriage. And then again, you can look at the Crucible in many ways, look at theology and look at just what a paradox and anomaly it is. Okay, and especially if you think about John Proctor, who is really the protagonist, the hero of the piece, who's also an adulterer. It is therefore sheer British jingoism which points to America as a country of Puritanic provincialism. It is quite true that our life is stunted by Puritanism and that the latter is killing what is natural and healthy in our impulses. Again, there is this reverberation around the concept of acting on what you feel is natural. Now, I know you might think, well, if you want to hurt someone, does that mean we're going to hit each other? Look, I understand the angle on that, but what we're saying is, within reason, to do things that we feel only normal is human. But what a paradox that is. Okay, I'm going to continue. But it is equally true that it is to England that we are indebted for transplanting this spirit on American soil. It is bequeathed to us by the Pilgrim Fathers fleeing from persecution and oppression. The Pilgrims of Mayflower fame established in the New World a reign of Puritanic tyranny and crime. The history of New England, and especially of Massachusetts, is full of horrors that have turned life into gloom. Now, big point there, that has turned life into gloom. I think if you look at the dark, macabre setting of the Crucible, Salem, Massachusetts, you will see that there is a lot of dark gloom. And that's just not because of the weather, okay? There is a symbolic value to that statement, which really rings true, okay? So continuing on, joy and despair, naturalness into disease, honesty and truth into hideous lies of hypocrisies, the ducking stool and the whipping post, as well as numerous other devices of torture, were the favorite English methods of American purification. And this goes back to the title of the text, okay, where you see the symbolic and metaphorical value of the crucible, how it purifies all the terrible, evil human behavior into something that is good. That's actually meant to be John Proctor in the end, but that in itself is an anomaly, okay? Look, I'm just not going to sit here and read you this text, but you can explore this text in so many ways. But I think that if you want to write an analytical piece like I have on the relationship of John Proctor and their sub-relationships, if I could say that, well, then this piece of writing by Emma Goldman will help you tremendously in writing that analysis. And then you can work with that with your students. Or if you're a student watching now, you can go to this and you can write a piece that will probably cover lots and many components of HSC questions. Okay, and having this level of understanding regarding Puritan and Puritan culture, if I could say that, or Puritan ideology would be better, well, then you would have a much better grasp of the text as a whole, and maybe also even understand some of Arthur Miller's more profound motivations for writing this piece. Okay, guys, so I hope that helped you, and be ready for the next video. Okay, bye.